Voilà, on arrive à la fin de notre petite émission et la direction le Parlement avec Florence Alexandre et Alwyn Sengili. C'est à vous.
Bonjour à tous. Nous prendre la direction de l'Assemblée nationale dans quelques instants pour suivre la PNQ du leader de l'opposition, Joe Jongar, adressé aujourd'hui à ministre Sécurité sociale, la Choc Soubron, avec mon studio Alwyn Sengeli. Bonjour.
Bonjour Florence.
La PNQ accède aujourd'hui le versement pension à 65 ans, une mesure budgétaire qui peut faire polémique à lui.
Exactement Florence. Donc depuis la présentation du budget jeudi 5 juin, c'est la mesure qui, dans sa budget 2025-2026, qui polarise l'attention. Donc, finalement, une levée de bouclier, une véritable tollée par le monde syndical et aussi la société civile dans son sens le plus large. Et hier, le PM a fait un statement au Parlement pour venir donner avec un chiffre et une statistique comment le système actuel est insoutenable à long terme.
Navid Ramgoulam qui fait alerte l'explosion dépenses de retraite et la nécessité aligne l'âge d'éligibilité à pension de base, l'âge légal départ à la retraite à lui.
Exactement. Donc c'est un système qui nous tout connaît, arrive 60 ans auparavant, tout le monde qui peut gagner BRP, donc Basic Retirement Pension. Mais ce qui n'est arrivé, c'est qu'au dernier 10 ans, 14 ans, nous sommes capables d'y aller, finalement, un rééquilibrage qui pas faire parce que le nombre de pensionnaires a augmenté avec le phénomène de aging population, le vieillissement de la population, et couplé à ça, nous avons aussi ce phénomène qui est de moins en moins de personnes actives à Maurice. Donc, arrive un moment que l'inépli est soutenable et c'est pour ça que le gouvernement de Navin Ramgoulam et de Paul Béranger viennent de l'avant avec sa mesure-là. Mais aujourd'hui, avec la PNQ, ce qui est intéressant, Florence, c'est que c'est une PNQ, une Private Notice Question, à deux volets. Donc, tout d'abord, il y a Joe Jongar, le leader de l'opposition, qui propose la question à Choc Soubron pour venir demander est-ce qu'il est consulté en relation à sa réforme-là. Ça, c'est la partie A et la partie B. Est-ce qu'il finit dans l'étude qui finit effectuée pour mesurer l'impact social d'une telle réforme?
Et pour Premier ministre, Alwyn, Navid Ramgoulam, Bizan évite même ça qui la Grèce ou Sri Lanka.
Oui, il dit ça à la fin de ce statement hier, donc après toutes les explications qu'il a données, il finit dire notamment que la part des dépenses pour la pension dans nos PIB, c'est-à-dire le Gross Domestic Product, il passe de 1,9% à 7,8%. Et ça depuis 2010. Et en valeur absolue, le montant qui nous peut bien débourser, le gouvernement besoin débourser pour payer la pension, aujourd'hui, sur l'année financière de 2024-2025, il atteint 55,4 milliards de roupies. Et l'idée qui, si n'a aucun changement, si nous pas réforme le système, ça va dépense là pour capable dépasser les 100 milliards de roupies d'ici 2035. Donc, comme je expliqué tout à l'heure, il y a aussi une dégradation continue du ratio entre actifs et retraités, qui fait une passe de 3,9 en 2015 à 2,7 actuellement, et il est capable même arrive à 2 en 2035.
Bizarre aussi souligné Alwyn Sengeli qui ministre Sécurité sociale, la Choc Soubron fin concédé lundi nous plateau dans l'émission Au cœur de l'info qui modalité sa mesure budgétaire la pan fin discuter avec lui, il dit qu'il bizarre il a une large consultation nationale.
Oui, comme Obediali, lundi donc à Choc Soubron, le ministre de l'intégration sociale et de la sécurité sociale sur le plateau de Patrick Hilbert, nos collègues dans Au cœur de l'info sur Radio Plus, et questionné par Patrick Hilbert, il dit qu'effectivement, il n'a pas encore gagné tous les détails sur sa réforme-là, et qui souhaitait qu'il y ait une discussion plus élargie en amont, au préalable, avant qu'il vienne présenter ça dans un budget. Et il est même allé plus loin pour dire qu'il peut-être pas sa réforme-là, pas figure dans le budget.
Voilà, dans quelques instants, nous pourrons la direction de l'Assemblée nationale, donc la PNQ du leader de l'opposition, Joe Jongar, qui adressé à ministre à Choc de la Sécurité sociale, à Choc Soubron Azodi, la PNQ qui accède Azodi le versement pension à 65 ans de mesures budgétaires qui peut faire polémique. Et après,
qui peut faire débat. Et voilà. Donc, sur le order paper aujourd'hui, nous payons une question parlementaire. Donc, après la PNQ, la séance de la PNQ, nous passons directement au débat budgétaire, donc l'intervention des députés et ministres sur le budget qui finit voter. Nous rappelons qu'hier, ça va un débat parlementaire budgétaire a débuté avec un efforaté, notamment le premier à prendre la parole, c'était le leader de l'opposition, Joe Jonga. Ensuite, Finena Reza Outim, ministre du Travail, qui finit de donner la réplique. Après, nous finissons le ministre comme Arvin Boulel, Patrick Assia-Vaden, Deven Nagalingam qui n'intervenir.
Nous pouvons prendre tout de suite la direction de l'Assemblée nationale pour la PNQ, Alvin.
Announcements none. Papers have been laid. Question.
Yes, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, your private notice question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've given notice of the following private notice question addressed to the Honourable Minister of Social Integration, Social Security and National Solidarity, whether in regard to the increase in the age eligibility to benefit from the basic retirement pension as announced in the budget speech 2025-2026, he will state if A, he was consulted in relation thereto, and B, any study has been carried out to assess the social impact thereof. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks to all members of the National Assembly. I stand today as a Minister of Social Security, Social Integration, and National Solidarity. I'm part of the Cabinet of Ministers, and I'm part of the Alliance du Changement, which was constituted to get rid of the previous government and to bring change in this country. The question today of the PNQ relates to very important issues, very important social and historical issues. I wish to inform the House that the retirement pension in Mauritius has always meant more than just a monthly income. It is a cornerstone of our social contract and reflects our society's recognition of lifelong work and promises dignity to our elders in their final years. To understand the deepness, the depth of the issue, we must begin by looking back at the history of pension in Mauritius. Starting from the pre-independence era and the evolution of times. During the colonial period, especially in times of slavery, I need...
One moment, yes.
My question is very straightforward.
Don't imitate your friend.
My question is very straightforward. We don't need to go back
Minister, please.
to the colonial era to reply to this question.
But that's the way, Minister, yes, that's the way he feels, that he must put a context. I can't stop him.
And I think if it's too long, you'll give me enough time to put my questions, Madam Speaker.
We will give you time. I will give you time. Minister, when you go back in history, don't stretch too much.
Yes. because I noticed that when I was talking on the slavery and indentured period that I was interrupted. During this time, there were no such pensions. The only form of support available was a few years afterward, after the abolition of indentured labor, was the commandement fund, a rudimentary form of assistance, not a right. The idea of pensions, it must be remembered, first entered public discourse following the social unrest of sugar estate workers in 1930s. In 1979, Hooper report, formerly titled the Report of the Commission of Inquiry into Unrest on Sugar Estate in Mauritius, recommended the introduction of old age pension, sickness insurance, and support for widows and orphans. Importantly, it stated that these protections must apply to all citizens. The first steps were taken in the 1940s, when the colonial governor appointed a committee to study the feasibility of old age pension. In 1941, the committee recommended a contributory scheme. However, it wasn't until 1950 that the government introduced non-contributory pensions as a temporary measure. Payment began in September of that year and were backdated to July. The age to qualify for this pension was 65 years at the time. Progressively, the scheme evolved. In 1953, the qualifying age was lowered to 60 for women, and the pension increased by 20 rupees. By 1957, the means test was abolished, and the pension rose to 22 rupees. In 1948, this is the most important date, the government introduced the universal pension for people aged 60 and above. At the time, there were 25,783 pensioners. Madam Speaker, the system continued to be matured. In 1965, the pension age was fixed at 60 for both men and women. The journey toward a structured social security system had gained momentum in 1958, as I mentioned, when a ministerial committee chaired by the late Honorable Guy Rosemont produced the first report proposing a modern system. A key turning point came in 1976. The National Pension Bill was presented by the then Minister of Social Security, Mr. Honorable K. Tiruvingadam. He credited the vision of Sir Sisaga Rambulam, of the trade unions of the time, and the MMM of the time, who had spoken about the necessity of a pension system. After 1976, major improvement followed. In 1977, coverage reached 98% of the elderly population. In 1978, a contributory system for private sector employees was launched alongside the continued non-contributory scheme. In 1983, a tiered system of pensions amount was introduced for people aged 90 and over, and increased for different layers of our senior citizens. In 1995, a new tier was created for those over 100 years, our centenaries. From 1996, pensions amount were revised. By 2000, concern emerged as the number of registered pensioners surpassed the estimated number of elderly citizens, raising questions of potential fraud. In 2001, an actuarial reform confirmed, and analysis at the time confirmed, that the system was financially sustainable up to 2040, assuming continuous growth. Madam Speaker, I recall 2008, a pivotal year in my personal journey. As a trade unionist, I participated in difficult negotiations, which led to two major changes at the time. raising the legal retirement age at 65 while retaining the old age pension at 60. It was hard, a hard battle, one that I fought with esteemed trade unionists like Rashid Imrit and the trade union movement for this battle. I wish to highlight that in 2020, the decision, I think 2020, and I speak to all honorable members of the Assembly, and all the people of Mauritius and all the workers of Mauritius. This is a critical year for the current debate that we are having now. In 2020, the former Minister of Finance decided to stop the payment of contribution to the National Pension Fund via the National Pension Scheme. And this decision was based on erroneous finding, and the fact I inquired before this PNQ, which I knew would come, I inquired with the official of my ministry. They were then informed that they were called by the then Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance asked officers of my ministry to pay 4,500 rupees, the electoral promises of the then government in 2019. They wanted to pay the 4,500 rupee from a contributory pension system. My official refused to pay the contribution of 4,500 rupees by the pension, because pensions are payable based on pension points of contributors. This is when my officials were nearly kicked out of the meeting, and the minister decided to eliminate the National Pension Scheme. This is the treason. This is the rupture with history. This is what happened. And as a matter of fact, the contribution accrued to the fund was stopped in September 2020. The fund value of NPF was at the time 138 billion rupees. Every year, the fund pays at around 4.5 billion in form of contributory pension. After almost 5 years, the total amount payable was around 20 billion rupees. It is to be noted that as at date, the fund value of the National Pension Fund is 160 billion rupees. Imagine what the size would have been if they didn't stop the contribution at the time. This was a crime against the working people. Instead, after dismantling the National Pension Scheme, they set up the CSG benefits. The CSG was a contribution paid by employees less than 50,000 rupees, 1.5% of their salaries, and above 50,000 rupees, it was 3%. Now, and the CSG was introduced while dismantling the National Pension Scheme for the government to honor their electoral promise. Because since this time, our elderly has become the target of, has been weaponized as an electoral tool, as an electoral weapon. Today, I am a policy maker. The current government is proposing to raise the pension eligibility to 65. This is a serious and challenging decision. not taken lightly. It is driven by the reality of fiscal constraint and demographic changes. I am a leftist. I will die a leftist. But objective facts has to be taken into consideration. We are now living in a country where life expectancy is increasing. On average, men live up to 70, men and women live around 74 years of expectancy. The extended longevity means longer retirement periods and heavier burdens on the pension system. I must stress, when in 1958, the Universal Pension System, BRP, now called BRP, was introduced, the life expectancy was in between 55 to 58 at this time. Okay? One can reason and reflect maybe of the cynical aspect of these figures, but it must, unfortunately, the debate around this pension has become distorted by those with vested interests. This group seeks to manipulate public narratives for their own benefits.
I will give you. Minister.
Let us return to the facts.
Minister,
Yes, please, madam.
If need be, I will give you more time. But perhaps at one point you can come to the reply. And some of what you're saying is probably already in your reply. But please reply. You know, little a and little b. You've almost finished what you had to say?
I started by, I have the today's paragraph. Today's paragraph. I've come to right now.
Okay.
Let's just return, I would say, to the, I think it's very important to understand the social transfer in motion, because pensions are part of the social transfers. And social transfers are very important and have represented, were it not the existence of social transfers, poverty would have risen to 36.4% in Mauritius. And I think the important point is we cannot ignore the dramatic shift in 2020, okay, when the NPS was abolished and when the CSG was introduced. And at the same time, when the NPF was abolished, there are two other important issues which have been brought on at the time in economic policies. First, the richest people have benefited from exonerous contribution, lack of contribution, I would say. 21 billion rupees of wage assistance scheme paid by the money of the people has been written off by the ex-Minister of Finance. This is in parallel to the dismantlement of the National Pension Scheme. Secondly, as stated by many of my colleagues, there was the introduction of the MIC to the rate of 80 billion rupees, which was meant to support big corporates, which was meant to be directed to cronies living around the previous regime. By repealing NPF, the link between work, contribution, and benefit was severed. Okay? Pension became a politically vulnerable benefit rather than a guaranteed right. Our government acknowledged the fragility of the current system. Despite intense pressure and criticism, we are looking to build a system that is equitable, sustainable, and rooted in shared responsibility between employers and workers. We believe that benefits must be predictable and fair. We have listened. We also know how deeply Mauritian values pension. not only as a financial support, but as a symbol to their contribution to the nation. It is a promise that no one will be left behind. In this context, we acknowledge the valuable input of my party, which submitted detailed proposal after the budget, and who participated almost on a daily basis to subcommittee chaired by the acting Prime Minister.
Yourself, because the question is about you. Were you consulted?
Yes, I'm coming to this. Okay. So, when the budget, let me come to this. Whether I was consulted or not, I would, yes, I'm replying. I wish to highlight to the House, that the manifesto of the present alliance made mentions of the necessary restructuring of the pension system. Secondly, as a minister in charge of social security, my ministry submitted proposals for the budget. But I do recognize, and I was consulted as a minister of the cabinet before the budget was presented here. I won't go into the details of cabinet decisions.
You're a member of the cabinet.
That's it. And when we analyzed the budget, my party submitted proposal to partners of the alliances. This is how alliances work. We submitted our views, and this is what I was just saying. After submitting the views, the issues about pension and the new system and what could be done to incorporate the concern and consideration of the people, what could be done was discussed for 1 week. Madam Speaker.
Minister, I'm so sorry.
We have 30 minutes.
Yeah, let me do my job, please. Will you allow me to speak?
Yeah, of course, Madam.
Okay. Minister, we have 30 minutes for this item.
Good.
I have no choice but to extend that time because he hasn't been able to ask any supplementary question. You're not replying to the question, you are actually making your speech. At the same time, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, you chose this particular subject, which is of course of the utmost importance, but we have a budget debate going on. You chose that, so you can't expect him to say in five minutes what...
But it's past 25 minutes.
I will give you time. I will give you time. I will give time exceptionally because the issue is so important. If everybody agrees, we will do that. I'm not going to penalize you, Leader of the Opposition. I don't normally penalize you. Yes. Try and round up. Try and round up, Minister, please.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I need to bring to the attention of the House that of the high level... It's important to bring to the attention of the House
let's listen to
and the people of Mauritius that there was a high-level committee on pension reforms, okay, when the leader of opposition was in government. I won't go into the detail of the report because of time constraint, but I need to bring to the attention of the House that the terms of reference of the report was exactly on pension system and the BRP. And there were several options. I won't go into the details. Among these options were drastic changes to the BRP system.
Okay.
Okay. And this was under the MSM regime. it is important to note that when the budget was presented, people raised serious concern.
Minister, please.
And
Minister, you have to answer the question. This is a PNQ.
yes, I was consulted as a cabinet minister. My party made representation and this issue was discussed lengthily. And I wish to state that after discussion between ministers and officials of the government, the cabinet took a decision on Monday 16th, 2025. Okay? And as regard to part B of the question, this is where I'm coming. The cabinet has agreed to set up two interministerial committees. One under the chair of the Prime Minister to look into possible support to those persons.
We know what these two committees are about. Okay.
Okay. Especially, and second, an interior committee under my chairmanship to look all health-related inability worker to work. And this committee has been lengthily detailed yesterday by the Prime Minister. And these committee, the two committees, will analyze all the impact, including the social impact, including the financial impact, including the future generations' interest, our children, grandchildren, and children of our grandchildren. And this would be my answer. I wish to conclude to say that my involvement in this government and does not differ from the objective I had when I was a trade unionist. And I wish to state that we as a government will recognize the right of the workers. I'm concluding.
You're not making a speech.
Yes, I'm just saying that.
No need to conclude.
Yeah. We recognize the right of the workers to organize and to do whatever they need to do to protect.
You will be up on your feet again in a minute.
Yes, madam. Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Your first supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, this is the first time that I see a minister taking so much time to reply. And in his reply, he has stated something with regard to part B of my question. So the minister is confirming that no study was carried out to assess the impact of such a measure on the population.
Question,
Can you
please.
confirm that?
Yeah.
Again?
Can you confirm? No study was carried out prior.
I must state, Madam Speaker, that presently there are 287,679 beneficiaries of the BRP. And out of these beneficiaries, we have studied that in the first year, that is 60 years, 39% of the beneficiaries are working either in the private or the public sector. The number of working beneficiaries decreased up to 15% of the 15% when they reach 64, attaining 55. So we have studied this. And secondly, I also want to emphasize that the government has decided to maintain the BIP payment, basic invalid pension payment, to all people with disability up to 65 years. Secondly, we have decided to maintain all payment to all widows up to 65. That's for the first part of the answer. The second is that the committee that will be looking into under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister will also assess, will also assess the impact of the changes that we are proposing to bring to workers. Already the law provides for derogations in many sectors, at least 5 sectors from knowledge that I have. These are workers of the sugar industry, the workers of the transport industry, the workers of the construction industry, the workers of the salt pan. So I'm replying to your question. I have said, yes, we have considered and we are still considering. While you repeal the national pension scheme, I have your manifesto here. Okay?
Minister,
Yeah,
let us keep to this question.
No. You participated in the dismantlement of the national pension scheme, and this was a treason to the people of Mauritius.
One moment. Minister, he will probably be putting a few more questions. Please reply to the question, because we have the debate after that. I don't know at what time you're speaking on the debate, but I'm sure you will be speaking again on the debate. So keep some of it for the debate, please. Second question, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With regard to the Cabinet decision taken on the 16th of June for the setting up of 2 interministerial committees to examine matters related to the basic retirement pension. One, I understand, one of the committee will be chaired by the Honourable Minister himself. Will he provide details to the terms of reference of that committee and the time frame?
Very short and to the point.
Our aim is to finalize everything before the implementation of the transition from BRP 60 to 65. So that is 1st September. Secondly, the terms of reference, I can speak, the terms of reference is quite explicit in the Cabinet decision, but I will give further details on the one that I'm chairing. The committee on the health-related inability to work will not only include in a reform of the whole medical board and assessment that we've known since independence. It will also include the reviewing and the reform of the whole assessment, and will be applied, whatever will be applied to people from the age of 60 to 65 will also be applied to any citizen with disability in Mauritius. This will be a historical reform that the committee will be studying, and I count and I rely on the support of all the ministers. This will be a major reform. Don't worry, you will see it when it will come.
Third question.
Yes. Will the Honourable Minister inform the House, this is a straight question, this one, whether he is agreeable for a ciblage system for the allocation of basic retirement pension?
Ciblage has been part of our history in the 1950s. It has been part of the decision of the previous government. All options will be studied and looked at by the committee. I need to read this. I wish to draw the attention of the leader of the opposition the first committee, to look into the possible support to those persons aged 60 and 65 employed in sectors with difficult working conditions, and eventual means-tested eligible housewife mothers. So it's not a blanket application of means-tested. One of the means-tested, kind of reviewed means-tested, might be derogation of some of the sectors that are already in law, and maybe enlarging it to other sectors.
Fourth question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Since the Honourable Minister mentioned his friends from the trade unions, and also in the communiqué issued by his party, and I quote, le parti estime qu'il est primordial que les Mauriciens se mobilisent et se fassent entendre sur les questions qui touchent fondamentalement leur acquis. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether he will participate in the rally organised by trade unions this Saturday at Champ de Mars? His party or himself?
There's no need to answer. There's no need.
I can answer. Yeah. I've never saw you in any of the demonstrations in this country, if you want this kind of reply. Second, it's because we have heard the trade unions, because we have heard the people of Mauritius, that we work night and day during the past week to bring up these two important ministerial committees, and the ministerial committees will study and will invite the people of this country to bring the input what might be changed or not. And I will conclude, Madam Speaker, that worry not the treason of 2020, we would be there.
We've got two more questions, Madam Speaker. Will the Honourable Minister inform the House whether there will be an increase in the basic retirement pension for the next financial year, that is 2025-2026, as promised by the government?
This,
You've already answered.
you're already, and it's in the budget. You can study the budget if you have time.
It's not in the budget.
He has another question. He has another question.
No, but we have a budget speech here.
He can't reply better than that. Mr. Duval, the leader of the opposition has announced two questions. But later on, wait. You have a last question, you said. You can't do better. He won't. I can't.
There won't be an increase then, if this is the case. Now, in view of the public outcry, Madam Speaker, since the announcement of this measure, will government consider cancelling this decision?
Is it for you to reply to that? Is it for him? You're
It's-
asking one minister.
Decide for him, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm asking.
the cabinet has taken a decision. The decision has been communicated to the public. The House knows the decision, and any consideration will be looked by the two ministerial committee and with this government, who have never betrayed the people.
Mr. Duval, yes?
Speaker, just firstly, the government n'a jamais plébiscité le peuple pour une réforme de repousser l'âge de la pension. Aujourd'hui, le public reproche le manque de consultation. Le gouvernement a pris la décision de
I
mettre en
want a
place.
question.
Est-ce que la communauté mauricienne dans son ensemble aura l'opportunité de participer aux consultations, et comment compte-t-il mettre en place justement un comité large de consultation au-delà du comité ministériel?
I'm going to stop the whole thing in 2 minutes, okay?
The two interministerial committee will decide on the framework for consultations.
Okay. One last one.
One last question. Now, with regard to promises made by the government during the electoral campaign, does government still intend to implement the decision to pay double pension to widows as canvassed before the elections?
Our mandate is a five-year mandate. Whatever we have to do, we'll do it during the next years within our mandate, okay? And we don't have many lessons to take from the MSM.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Time is up now. Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. Thank you, Minister. Motion, yes?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I beg to move that all the business on today's order paper.
Voilà pour la PNQ du leader de l'opposition Joe Lejonga. Ashok Soubron fin confirmé qu'il n'a fin faire aucune étude avant annonce mesure budgétaire vers pension à 65 ans à lui.
Effectivement, Florence, donc dans sa réponse à sa partie de la PNQ là, le ministre Ashok Soubron fin dire qu'il pas fini dans consultation, pas fini dans étude peut-être sur la réforme, Mais par contre, il donne un chiffre intéressant. Il dit qu'il y a 287 679 bénéficiaires actuellement de la pension de vieillesse et que de ce nombre-là, il y a 39% de working pensioners, c'est-à-dire des gens qui ont au-delà de 60 ans, mais ils travaillent. Et qui, sa chiffre de 39%-là, il rabaissé à 15% à partir de l'âge de 64 ans. Donc, il confirmait toutefois que la pension continuera à être versée aux veuves et aux personnes handicapées.
Et par rapport à ciblage, souvent fin dire qui comité interministériel pour étudier toute option.
Il y a plusieurs questions et réponses donc de Ashok Soubron qui fin rabattre à deux comités interministériels là qui fin nommés pour la mise en pratique de certaines options, notamment est-ce qu'il est capable de trouver une mesure palliative pour des gens qui soit sont malades, sont dans la santé précaire, et aussi pour un métier pénible comme l'Indiali lui-même et dans un secteur qui concerne le secteur du transport, le secteur de l'industrie sucrière et aussi de la construction. C'est tout le débat sur la pénibilité de certains métiers, de certains donc travail qui man mauricien fait.
Plusieurs fois, le speaker finit bien interrompre le ministre Ashok Soubron à lui.
Donc, Florence, comme on a remarqué au début de son intervention, le ministre Ashok Soubron finit faire une longue réquisitoire, une longue chose chronologique de l'histoire de la pension depuis l'époque même de l'esclavage, de l'engagisme, jusqu'à l'époque coloniale et ensuite l'indépendance. Et donc, plusieurs fois, la speaker Shirin Omerodi-Zifra finit dire qui go to the point, c'est-à-dire répondre à la question, aux deux parties de la question directement au lieu de faire une digression qui prend beaucoup de temps. Et aussi, nous connaissons la séance de la PNQ, ça dure 30 minutes, mais là, nous débordons, nous arrivons aux 40 minutes.
Voilà. Finalement, finina aussi une question du député Adrien Duval.
Oui, donc Adrien Duval qui ne pas trop comprend à un moment donné est-ce
qu'il prenait une loge
consultation de la population. Donc là aussi, Ashok Soubron fin dire que ce sera aux deux comités interministériels de décider de la modalité de ces consultations.
Là, entre-temps, débat budgétaire peut continuer à lui.
Exactement. Donc hier, finina l'entame de débat budgétaire donc au Parlement. Hier, il y a 9 orateurs et aujourd'hui, nous avons donc une liste un peu plus longue. Aujourd'hui, une liste de 18 orateurs et c'est le ministre de la fonction civile, Raj Pentia, qui vous donne le coup d'envoi. Ensuite, suivi par l'intervention du député de l'opposition, donc Adrien Duval. Et ensuite, puis il y a un ministre qui peut intervenir, comme l'honorable Gondia, l'honorable Juno, ministre par à peine. Ensuite, le docteur Kaviraj Soukon. Et aussi Ranjiv Wuchit et c'est Michael Sikwen, ministre du Commerce, qui pour clore les débats, donc sans doute pour ajourner les travaux.
Merci Alwin pour toutes ces précisions.
Merci à nos fidèles auditeurs qui finissent suivre donc la séance de la PNQ en live sur Facebook et les autres plateformes du Défi Média Group.
Voilà pour l'essentiel de la PNQ du jour. Plus de détails dans notre journal de 13h avec Mélanie Duval.